In the last few weeks, universities have slowly been reopening and allowing students back onto campus. The first virtual Freshers' Week have come and gone, and students are facing the reality of a significant portion of their university experience taking place under serious lockdown restrictions. Are students simply being encouraged to come back for the financial benefit of universities, or is there still a benefit from the reduced contact hours between academics and students? In this video, we will analyse these claims from the perspective both of students and of universities. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Not only do we cover UK news here, we also have an EU and US channel and a daily briefing channel where we post 4-minute daily news briefings. All of these can be found linked below. Part of the reason we decided to make this video is because of a BBC News article about the conditions in Derby Hall at the University of Nottingham, the exact same halls I stayed in my first year of university. Basically, the article claims that the conditions in halls are far from perfect. If you want to read this article, feel free, it's linked in the description below. For the sake of time though, we won't summarise it here. The problem for universities is that although government has told universities that they can still charge the full amounts to students, the Consumer Rights Act still applies. This basically means that they cannot falsely advertise university to you. So, if you were promised something and it hasn't been delivered, then this could be a breach of the Act and compensation could be owed. Trying to keep students at universities could be a way to bolster their argument if this ever went to court. If they told students to stay home, then they could claim that they're not getting access to the library, cannot speak to professors, cannot attend seminars, all the things that they may well have been promised. So, some students could argue that universities are overlooking the public health crisis in order to ensure that they get the maximum amount from students. This argument could even be bolstered by the fact that, although many lectures and seminars are online, many courses are still holding a nominal amount of contact hours. One way of interpreting this is that universities are keeping the contact hours in order to justify students returning to accommodation and thus paying the fees. However, universities may defend themselves by arguing that a lot of social contact is currently being allowed, such as going to cinemas, bars, restaurants, and even, in summer, going on holiday. Education is far more important to young people than any of these, and why should they have to do this at home where they can't access the full range of services that the university has to offer? Although yes, opening universities will spread the virus, if everyone follows the rules and isolates with their bubbles, the virus will not spread to those who are seriously at risk from the virus, for example, older people. The universities are doing all they can to ensure that their students are safe and ensure that the university experience is as close to normal as other years. So why shouldn't they be paid in full? After all, the money goes towards paying staff and ensuring that buildings such as libraries remain open. We'll let you reach your own conclusions about which factor is motivating universities, but let's look deeper into Nottingham University, my former uni, and the one that has been in the news lately. We'll have a look at 3 things to get to the bottom of this: university protocol with coronavirus, contact hours with academics, and what accommodation is like for students. Before looking into this though, it would be good to understand how Nottingham has been affected by the pandemic. The University of Nottingham is undergoing a huge spike in cases on campus, and therefore university-regulated accommodation. According to the university themselves, 1 in 80 students have tested positive for coronavirus, and there's even been speculation that Nottingham could go into regional lockdown soon. In making this video, I've spoken to some students at the university. In line with the university's online regulation, communal areas, such as seminar rooms, have ticks and crosses on them in order to indicate who can sit where while respecting social distancing guidelines. Students are expected to wipe down their working areas before and after they start a seminar, and seminars end 10 minutes before they usually would to allow for students to filter in and out without coming into contact with one another. Masks must be worn basically as much as possible, including in seminars. The on-campus libraries can be accessed by students, but only in 2 3-hour sessions per week. There have also been reports by students of queues outside libraries. It's fair to say that in relation to safety, the university has done a lot to try and stop the spread on campus. But was this necessary? Was this a good way to ensure that university has proceeded as close to normal while keeping students safe? Or should students have been kept home instead and given a reduction in tuition fees? Again, this is down to interpretation. The real controversy though is in relation to contact hours. Contact hours, for the purpose of this video, are basically where students are physically in the room with other students and an academic, so this basically means seminars. I've spoken to a few different students for this video, and the number of contact hours vary widely, as does their opinion towards them. Some students have had a huge reduction in contact hours, some have seen only a slight reduction. This makes sense, considering the university has said that this year will be a blended approach, meaning a blend between physical learning and online learning. However, a fourth-year maths student has claimed that despite also being told that this year would be a blended approach, they have 0 contact hours, meaning that, for this term at least, the course is taking place fully online. The fully online nature of the course was communicated only days before returning. We've also heard an unconfirmed report of someone in the same position with contact hours. The difference was that they didn't want to return, and when they did, they actually caught the virus. For students, earlier communication could have saved them money on accommodation and the risk of being physically at the university during a pandemic. For universities, due to the pandemic, they could argue that reduced staff made earlier communication impossible, and that the fully online nature could simply be for this term. They could also argue that the policies introduced should keep students safe if they follow the rules. In relation to student accommodation on campus, it seems like the report from BBC News about my former hall represents the situation for many students. According to someone living in student accommodation on campus, run by the university has assigned each student to either category 1, 2 or 3. The first are those who have coronavirus, and they've been told to stay indoors and not to move. Food is brought to them, as you'd expect. The second are those that live with somebody, or somebody who's in their bubble, who has coronavirus. They have a bit more freedom and are allowed to go to the cafeteria at set times for meals and can exercise in a designated outdoor area at set times. They are not, however, allowed out of the accommodation. The third are those who do not have coronavirus and do not know anyone in their accommodation who has coronavirus. The student I spoke to is in category 2 and has claimed that slowly the whole of their accommodation moved from category 3 to category 1 and 2, meaning that everyone in the accommodation must remain there. It's basically a lockdown. Some will blame the university for not doing enough. After all, not all universities have the same number of cases that Nottingham does. Others will blame the students. We've asked the University of Nottingham for a comment on this story. If we receive a reply, it will be posted as a pinned comment below, so check that out. So should the university have locked the students down fully when they moved in? Should the university have known that people moving from across the country into small halls would have resulted in a huge transmission rate, and should they have therefore acted preemptively? Or is the responsibility on the students to ensure that they're not acting in a way that spreads the virus? As always, let us know your thoughts in the comments below.